Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. In this video, our group will be presenting about our research case study, which is student study performance during online learning vs face-to-face class. So let's check out.
This study analysed online courses provided at the public 4-year institution using current grade and student survey data. The study looked specifically at disparities in student success rates between online and face-to-face courses for conventional undergraduate students, as well as the atmosphere of student opinion of online courses by Spencer D. and T. Temple T. in 2021. In its most basic form, higher education course delivery may be divided into 3 instructional formats, which are conventional face-to-face learning, online learning, and blended learning. In a traditional face-to-face classroom, where student-teacher interaction takes place in a physical classroom setting, online learning involves students being physically separated from their teachers. Blended learning, on the other hand, transition between traditional and online learning. Such comparison is not that useful now, since both online and face-to-face delivery would employ a combination of video and text media. The results show that competencies have a positive influence on learning outcomes, in which the type of university is a determining factor. Along with the growth of COVID-19 cases that rapidly increased in Malaysia, there are several sectors that face drastic changes, especially educational and economy. They are not allowed to attend school for this purpose and must complete their work at home. According to the Ministry of Education, they are dedicated to ensuring that students are not left behind. It stated that teachers might use a number of online platforms, including social media, to prepare and deliver lessons, assignments, and homework. Students should use textbooks, practice books, revision books, and other teaching aids, the Education Ministry has said. Teachers can also use Google Classroom, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and WebEx for learning and teaching. This new learning style requires students to not only rely on the materials provided by their teachers. Students also need to use as many platforms like Google Scholar and Science directly to find examples or as extra notes for their understanding. Many students gain their references from untrusted or unofficial websites and platforms. This has affected their studies as they use unconfirmed facts and information, such as applying the wrong methods in solving one math problem. Studying at home has a complete difference with studying in class in terms of environments. Many students find it hard to focus during online classes due to outside distractions such as noise and a lack of natural light. They also tend to become more lazy to even open their books because of the vibe of studying alone that doesn't match many students' learning style. Therefore, in this study, we want to know that student performance is affected by the time management, environment, lack of resources, and delivery modalities.
Now for the research objective. In this research project, our objective is we want to study the relationship between 4 independent variables and 1 dependent variables, which is to study the relationship between delivery modalities, lack of resources, time management, environment, and student study performance during online learning vs face-to-face class. Next, for the research questions, we want to know, does all independence variables have a relationship between the dependence variables? So, the research question is, does delivery modalities, lack of resources, time management, environment, and student study performance during online learning vs face-to-face class have a relationship? Now, let's move on to hypothesis statement. As we have 4 independent variables, so we also have 4 hypothesis statements, which also depend on the 1 dependent variables. For example, for the delivery modalities variables, the null hypothesis is there is no relationship between delivery modalities and student study performance during online learning vs face-to-face class. And for the H1 or hypothesis alternative, there is a significant relationship between delivery modalities and student study performance during online learning vs face-to-face class. Same goes to another independent variables.
Next, I will continue our presentation video by explaining the significance of our study. The goal of our research is to assess the efficiency of learning via online distance versus face-to-face in school or university. Due to the pandemic, majority students complete their courses online. Furthermore, students have the freedom to study anywhere and whenever they choose, but some of them face a variety of challenges that prohibit them from receiving the proper learning growth that they would obtain if they were at school. As students, they must have their own timetable exactly as in a face-to-face lesson. In online learning, users should also avoid including unnecessary activities in their daily routine that compel them to leave their house and skip lessons. Following that, we want to examine the usefulness of the lecture modes or materials in assisting students in improving their academic performance. As we all know, since the pandemic began, people are most likely required to work from home in order to prevent the coronavirus from spreading across society. As a result, learning resources are critical to make it simpler for pupils. On the internet, they have access to a wealth of knowledge at their fingers. And as a result, we are interested whether a shortage of learning materials affects student performance throughout their online learning session. Then, as researchers, we want to know if ignoring the delivery mode has an effect on students' performance. Genetics, IQ, and individuals' capacity to control their learning styles are all elements that impact success. However, the advantage of studying in class is it increases students' grasp of the material being studied. It is because they have companions with whom they can receive, and the climate in the class is more conducive to study and quiet, despite the fact that each student had their own method of studying the lesson. Furthermore, the purpose of this research is to get new understanding about journaling and to create articles for future studies that may be utilized by others on the internet. Creating articles based on performance during online learning versus face-to-face class has assisted us as students in taking precautions on how to optimize our learning method due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been biggest concern in this globe for 2 years. As a result, we must continue to study and work in order to support our family. Okay, now let's take a look at the limitation of the study. Our study has some limitation which our findings need to be interpreted carefully. In addition, due to the pandemic COVID-19 outbreak, we can avoid to face some difficulties during conducting our research study. Firstly, this is due to the limit of direct connection among our responses, since we must maintain physical distance from one another in order to avoid infection. As a result, we can only conduct the survey via distributing the questionnaire using Google Form. Hence, our survey takes longer since we need to keep distributing the questionnaire until we reach the entire number we seek. Furthermore, the time might become longer as some respondents might just be ignoring the given questionnaire. Moreover, the data we collected may not be accurate since there is a tendency for them to misread the question because no one is there to help them to properly respond to question. The sample selected for the study was specifically students who were affected in the pandemic. As now the coronavirus has spread throughout the world, there are no more traditional learning methods conducted. The changes happen too fast and shockingly causes students to get stressed to adapt with the new learning method, which is online learning. The results obtained from this study may not be applicable to other people who do not experience these changes, while narrative research is considered appropriate for research that desires a holistic viewpoint and rich, detailed data, and wants person may limit the representation of the multiple viewpoints.
In recent years, demand for online learning has rapidly increased and become essential components of educational institutions all around the world. This drastic change in our educational system is due to the spreading of virus widely and significantly with the advancement of the technology. Some of the problem issues due to our educational system change are the difference that it made in student study performance and the level of readiness both students in studying and lecturers in conducting the online class. Both of the educational techniques have their own pros and cons respectively. In this literature review, we compare factors that affect student study performance during online learning versus face-to-face class.
Next is delivery modalities. Delivery modalities are divided into 4 types of learning. In this study, we will focus on face-to-face learning, distance learning, and blended learning. There is a survey of differentiating both learning modalities based on 2 student essay. The student who study face-to-face and student who study online learning is compared based on their result in their exam. The example of this study is including for online learning, the student needs to have the computer skills and the face-to-face surroundings, and learning equipment is different from the online learning. Next, based on Paul and Jeffron 2019, aligned with the new achievement in technology nowadays, all the learners or students prefer to access from anywhere and at any time. It's also the attractiveness of distance learning is increasing because of the flexibility and access. Multiple other face value benefits including program choice and time efficiency. Based on Lisa Amir 2020, distance is needed to prevent the COVID-19 virus from spreading as it can help in this pandemic situation. Blended learning guides the student to study by themselves. Based on the survey that they apply to the students more prefer online distance learning instead of face-to-face learning, and it shows only 24.2% of students did not experience problem during the distance learning as they deal with the unstable internet connection or stress.
Now I'm going to present the lack of resources. Teachers, governments, and parents are working hard to ensure that our country's youngsters succeed academically. This initiative interacts with the growing usage of technology, which has an impact on students' life both inside and beyond the classroom. Obtaining and maintaining the devices and equipment, training human resources, and providing online content, all in that list come with significant costs to be provided. There are no quality assurance, e-resource creation, or e-content delivery standards. The availability of digital gadgets, the internet, and Wi-Fi is not applied to all of the instructors and students. Many students may lose out on learning opportunities due to a lack of appropriate digital tools or access. Maintaining digital fairness is vital in this challenging time. Instead of worrying about the technological barriers, instructors can focus on educating. Besides, students can access a variety of infrastructure and libraries by using this type of virtual environment. Higher education students do not need to attend a classroom. Instead, they can log into a learning management system and study via video content while in the classroom. They are free to incorporate any information obtained for library resources into their work of research. Last but not least, higher education institutions may gradually move away from traditional instruction and embrace web-based teaching. This might result in a bigger consumer population, increased cost efficiency, and more university income. M. Oziewicz 2013 stated that anytime a student works with an e-learning process, the student must adhere to all instruction given by a lecturer or teacher.
Now I will talk about literature review about time management. Jacques S.M. states that time management is a straightforward and low-cost way to minimize stressor, supported by Hefner A. that time management refers to a combination of time assessment, goal setting, planning, and performance monitoring. Proper time management is one of the keys to success in our university or college education. However, each learning style has long been ingrained in itself. Compared to face-to-face study, where our learning schedule is already set by the academic management. In addition, all assignments that involve group work with other classmates are also easy to discuss and handle. Other than that, 70.7% of the respondents agreed that online learning is saving time getting ready to the classes, as they only have to attend the class via online platform such as Google Classroom, Google Meet, Zoom, and many more.
There is a growing body of literature that recognizes virtual classroom teaching and online exam, which have replaced traditional classroom based on learning and paper pencil evaluation by Sharma and Jones, 2016. Aside from the information gains about the issue under discussion, there are several criteria involved in deciding student performance in online assessment. Personalization in computer-based learning. Personalization might be accomplished through modeling students' learning style and preference. Evaluation students' knowledge level at various points in a learning environment. Deliver personalization, feedback to student and modeling student emotional states. Few researchers have looked into student study performance and the setting in which they learn online in a systematic approach. A recent study in university students in Korea found that more than 70% were unsatisfied with non-face-to-face classes, and 56% said that appropriate measures for online education in the future were not well prepared.
Now, I will conclude all the literature review. The review literature suggests that there are factors that affect student study performance during online learning and face-to-face class. Online learning has grown bigger and wider in community college nowadays until it became a must in one's student life. Student study performance is surely affected by our educational system change, but it also depends on the student preference itself. Some students prefer to attend face-to-face class, and there are also a number of students who want to contribute more in online learning. However, this research has a few limitations inherent in collecting or surveying the data.
After we find the problem statement, research objective, research question, and hypothesis structure, we proceed to the literature review. Next, we find the population of the sample, which is in this study, we use population of UI times gamma student, which is in total of 7,022 students, and the sample is only 365 students. The sampling design that we use is simple random sample because it has an equal chance in choosing between the 7,022 population. Next, the data collection method that we use is primary data. We collect directly from respondent using the Google form. Next, for the data preparation, follow 3 steps, which is data coding, data entering, and data editing. For the data analysis, we classify it into 2 categories, which is first is for the qualitative and second for the quantitative. And next, we proceed to the conclusion, and lastly, we proceed to the writing in the final report. The population of research is UI times gamma student, which is in total of 7,022 students. Due to the pandemic, it is limited to only choose UI times gamma students. Based on the raw soft, it only takes 365 students as the sample. We choose the student using the simple random sampling technique. We use simple random sampling because it has an equal chance to be selected among the 7,022 population. The sample selected was considered as representative, while the non-representative is called sampling error.
Moving on with data collection method, we choose to gather all data using an online questionnaire. The source of data for our research is primary data, where the data obtained are directly from the respondent and not from other resources. The Google form was then sent to your items gamma student using online platforms such as WhatsApp. This strategy is employed because it can save money and provide respondent extra time to think about their replies. Furthermore, this can assist in maintaining the respondent's safe social distance from us as researcher. The Google form In our case study, we also performed multiple scales analysis. This approach was used to find valid approximations to a solution where the solution depends on vastly different scale. After collecting data, we have to prepare the data with 3 steps, which are data coding, data entry, and data editing. Let's start with data coding. As the detail of the respondents where we have 4 variables such as age, status, education, and faculty, especially for student in UiTM Segamat. The range of age is from 17 to 24 years old. Also include for their status, either single or married. As for level of education, we have pro-diploma, diploma, and degree. Whereas for faculty, UiTM Segamat has business and management, accounting, information management, computer science and mathematics, academy of language, and academy of Islamic studies. After the gathered questionnaire were reviewed or coded, we data entry using Smart PLS 3.0 partial least square structural equation modeling PLS-SAM to guarantee that only selected data were used in the research. Data from the Google form were scanned and cleansed. Lastly, all the missing data, unexpected response patterns, and outliers were all examined in the data. The questionnaire was discovered while coding. One portion was not answered, and additional question was not answered too, or a clear response patterns in the responses was detected, and these answers were excluded. Each value of the independent variable corresponding to a value of dependent variables. Our independent variables, including delivery modality, lack of resources, time management, and environment, whereas our dependent variable is student studies performance. We must determine the value of each significance of the association between independent and dependent variable based on our data. Data analysis in this study, they will be categorized into 2 groups of method for qualitative and quantitative variables. For the qualitative variables, the data analysis are bar chart, pie chart, where the variables involved are gender and status. In addition, frequency table and cross-tabulation table analysis have variables such as gender, level of education, and faculties. Data analysis for quantitative variable consists of measure of screeners, where we use 2 coefficient quantifiers such as screeners and courtesies. These variables are based on the shape of the distribution and the thickness of its curve rises as it approaches the center of distribution. Next, we also use reliability test. It is calculated using the average intercorrelation of the data. Convex alpha value of 0.7 or above are regarded to be acceptable. The closer it is to 1, the more reliable the internal consistency. Anything less than 0.7 are regarded as mediocre, while anything over is considered excellent.
So that's all from us.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.